Good morning and welcome back to another pipeline trading video. This is my third attempt because I keep getting messages from the wife while I'm doing a video, and I'm going to keep it PG. So what I'm going to be looking for today, I don't know what's going on with my computer. Okay, so what I'm going to be discussing is the overall markets. I'm going to go into some gold, oil. We have some reports that came out, and I'm going to just give you a little bit of a bird's eye view on what to be looking out for and what we could potentially see and to be mindful of, right? This is a channel to educate you, to think outside of what you just hear on social media, what you hear on CNBC or the business channel or the news. Remember, when they go on and the talking heads are saying something, there's probably a reason for that, and it's not to give you a good understanding of what's going on. You know, they're playing a game. They're not going to tell you their playbook till after their play's made. So what we're seeing right now is a huge pivotal point in the S&P and the Nasdaq. The bottom of the screen is the QQQs, which is the Nasdaq, and the top screen is the S&P 500, which is the Spiders ETF. Okay, I've had these lines drawn in for quite some time, and as you can see, we kept going up and up and up, and now we have our first signal. What this means is we broke the 20-day, and you can see when we break the 20-day, can we come back up here? Yep, but we don't know unless everything curls back up. This area right here is the first sign that we're going down. Okay, we haven't broken that this entire time. We stayed above the 10-day. Okay, and that's bullish. 10, 20, you want to stay above that. Once you start touching the 50, excuse me, and showing weakness based off of the run that we had, there's a pretty good chance. Okay, we had a 20% run. That's big. Okay, that's huge. Considering that we dropped initially because of the Strait of Hormuz, which, as you can see, it made no difference. This is what I mean about knowing what the talking heads are saying and what they're actually doing are always two different things. So the market came down, they got their liquidity, the market went up. It really had nothing crazy to do with that. The run that we had and all the fear and everything else, these guys were positioned for this run. So what I'm anticipating is we have a gap down here in the blue. Depending upon what oil and the rates do, I don't know if anybody has paid attention, but Europe raised rates. And I've been saying this for quite some time, that there's a very good chance that the 10 years could go up, as most people are anticipating for them to go down. If we go to the first fib level, that's a 6.4% drop. The second level, you're talking 8%. And I'm just rounding, right? And the third level, you're talking almost 11. The fourth level, which is a really attractive level, is 13.57. Okay? But I'm way ahead of myself at this point because we have to see how this is going to react right now off the 50-day moving average. One of the key things I'll give you a little insight to understand how I could see a big drop is we had this big candle break the 20. We had this come down and wick up off the 50. This right here is a distribution type of candle to me. Typically, the following candle will wipe that one out. That's how I look at it. Some people look at this as a reversal that we're going to the upside. For me, I've just seen too many times where, look, it wicks, comes down to somewhere close into that wick. And like you saw it here, And the big ones, and if you want to see what I'm talking about, look in crypto when you have these big wicks. It could be a month later that this gets filled, this wick. So what I'm looking for is a retracement, something healthy. If we break the 50, which is 724 on the spider, bet yourself that we're going down to 680. I would bet my life on that. If we broke the 50 and we hold the 50 as resistance, we are coming down to 679. So what does that look like? If things continue the way they are, we're talking about a 10% drop, 11% drop. Maybe we fill some of this gap, we could even wick down. So you're talking from this point, we're going to see from here where we are today. Oh, let me start this over. We are going to see another 6.5%, potentially to 9.5% drop. Okay. Now, a lot of people at that point will be freaking out, and they're going to be saying, this is like going, this is Armageddon. This is the dot-com bubble. You're going to see all that. And I wouldn't be surprised if after that level, we get a bounce to the upside. I wouldn't be surprised. It doesn't mean that this whole thing that I'm pointing out, that what I'm going to be watching it could not happen. And they could be right and the whole market collapses. Yeah, sure, maybe. But that's not what I'm doing. I'm just educating you on what to be watching for when these events take place, because the markets are changing every day. I don't know when I wake up what's going to be moving the markets. I don't have a crystal ball, but I know where my levels are. I know what I'm going to be watching and why I'm going to be watching it. That's the whole point of this channel. So remember, I said when we have a break of structure, a change of character, typically we get a run up. We come back into this level before making our next leg up. That's what happens. Now, watch the volume. You could see as we're coming down here, volume is picking up. So that right there shows you there's distribution happening at these levels, and that the market makers and the bigger money is probably taking profits and repositioning or resizing their weight. However much they have in tech, AI, gold, silver, whatever it is, they're going to be repositioning. Now, if I go to oil hasn't really done much, but it stayed in the wedge. And I was just talking about this with somebody yesterday. So I'm expecting oil to stay in this wedge for a bit. Like, it's holding this level as support. So between 85 to 100 is where I think we're going to be trading oil for a bit until things get better. But if things escalate, don't be surprised that, remember, I'm saying in the near future, down the road, that we could see the market tank. Okay. I think if that were to happen, oil would probably spike. Now, if I look at the actual indicators, the 10, 20, and 50, we're bearish on oil. So the 10 crossed the 20 over here, right here. The price is below 50. This right here is classic to show you that oil should be coming down. However, on this type of wedge, this is also a bullish wedge because it's consolidating up here, which is not good. We don't want to see it consolidate the way it is. We have a head and shoulder in here. What we want to see is a breakdown, and hopefully, we could get oil down to 70 a barrel. Okay? If that happens, expect the market to rip to new highs. If I go to gold is now breaking down to the downside, And you remember what I was saying on the S&P chart with the wick? We had this massive green candle wick. Guess what? This is 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Literally 18 days. It went, and now it's coming back down. So you can see that these big wicks like this always get filled in some way, shape, or form. We just don't know how long it's going to be. And that's where you could use the indicators. But right now, gold is very bearish. And we have to see how long this is going to play out. How low is it going to go? Right? Because a lot of people are saying, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. Right now, we could just chop all the way down, and eventually we're going to break out of this wedge. How low do we go? We could come all the way down here to the 200-day moving average. So a lot of people are looking, saying, oh yeah, this is going to come. It doesn't happen in one straight shot. It never does. But we are in a downward channel, which tells me that this is going to come down, chop all the way down. There's liquidity right here. This might be it, for all I know. We have the indicators that are showing it's oversold. So we're going to watch and see. But this is also, if we do get a rip up, telling us that there's something going on behind the scenes that's bigger than anything that we're aware of. If I go to this chart, this shows that there's still liquidity going into the market with the business cycle. So that's another reason why I think that we still have not seen the blow off top and the highs are not in yet. That's my personal belief. Maybe I'm wrong, but based off of this chart, it shows that liquidity is still going into the market. If I go to the 10-year, 10 years still bullish. We're still out here and we broke the structure. And we better hope that I'm wrong and that this comes down and plummets. Because if it does not, this is a really good chance of going to the upside, and that will destroy the market. So these are things that I'm watching. That's why I'm watching it. I hope I'm wrong, but you could see how long we've consolidated in this. This is exactly like oil. See how we've been chopping? Typically, this is, again, technical analysis. It doesn't mean that it always plays out 100%. But when you understand this, you know where the levels are, right? See how we always hit these levels? And then eventually, it should go to the upside. Do we know where? Potentially? Yeah, this is a measured move. 5.87% on the 10-year. I could promise you if that happens, the market will tank. So that's what I'm watching. We're going to see this do what it's going to do. I don't know if this is going to happen right now. I don't think it will, because there's a war. It's expensive, and there will be serious consequences for America's debt and the fiat currency. So keep this in the back of your mind. Watch them just to see what they're doing, because this is also going to give you a bigger story to what to be concerned about down the road. Now, Bitcoin. I believe, as you could see, we are closer to the bottom, which I've been saying. Does it mean that the bottom's in? No, it does not. But if I were to look and say, okay, how much more downside can we get? 14%. Really not much compared to what's going to come down the road. There's a chart. I don't know what it is, where it is, but it basically, I'm going to find it. I'm going to do a video on it. It shows the supply and liquidity of Bitcoin. And when they cross, that typically the bottom is in. So these charts have already crossed right now, showing that the bottom is actually close. So if you were dollar, you're never going to know the exact bottom. I want to be clear on that. It is impossible to say this is the price, this is the lowest it's going to go, and I'm going to buy here and only here. That's impossible. Now, if you have a level that you know where the prices should sort of level out and get some composure before going to the upside, you could start dollar cost averaging, or you can wait for the confirmation and be content with missing out on, and I'll draw this out so you understand what I'm saying. Right now, let's just say we come down here where the target is 53.62. It goes like this, and it comes down here, and it goes here, and it goes here. People could be freaking out. Okay? But eventually, this is what you want to see. So you have an option here. Do you want to wait? Because we want to see this go more to the downside. Do you want to see yourself buying here, maybe buying some more here, maybe buying some more here? Okay? Or would you rather wait for this move, get confirmation, and then once we make a new high, start to buy on the way up? And miss, if you're buying up here, maybe you miss 4,000, 7,000, and 9,000. If you're wondering where I got that number, if I'm at 58,000, and I could have bought at 50,000. I could have bought some at 52,000. I could have bought some at 53,000, right? And I could start buying a little bit lower at these levels because you are not thinking about what's going to happen the next month. You're thinking of what's going to happen the following year after the halving. That's how you could play that. There's two ways. So I'm more in the camp because I've been doing this for so long and I'm comfortable, and I'm also doing covered calls, and I'm using other derivative products to help me navigate these markets. I am comfortable starting to buy and sell calls at levels I know are not going to get filled, bring in income, and then start to also accumulate down at these levels. I'm okay with that because for all I know, we could come a little bit down here and then not reach the target, and it goes eventually. Now, the thing is, this is typically going to happen by October. I'm understanding why October now a little bit more than I did before. It has something to do with the 4-year cycle, but it also has to do with something of 500 days after the halving. So you buy 500 days, you sell 500 days after the halving, you buy 500 days after the top of the market. And the halving, I believe, is around October. See, it's funny. I was looking at my notes, and I had in my notes the next bottom is in December of 2027. So some people, I was off by a few months from what a lot of people who have more experience than me in this market are anticipating. They're saying the next bottom is going to be this October, and then we should get liftoff. So we're going to see. I had December, but at the same time, I don't mind these levels because I also am a little weary of the fact that the market has made a historical high while Bitcoin's made a lower low. So for me, I just think, okay, is there a possibility that this whole thing fakes everybody out? And this is close to the bottom, as low as we're going to get, the 53,000 mark, 55, wherever it is, which also coincides with us being 20% lower than the previous high over here. We are in a downward channel. So maybe the channel goes down to 54. Like, I don't see it go all the way down here. I just don't see it. But again, I could be wrong. And there are some other reasons that I think, okay, maybe I am a little too early because we do have the head and shoulder on the weekly. But even the head and shoulder on the weekly only takes us to about 51,000. So it's all going to depend here. This is where I'm having a very difficult time going based off of what other people are anticipating because it doesn't make any sense to me. Please leave comments. Help me out here. It doesn't make any sense. The market made an absolute ripper of a high. AI is flying. AI, the blockchain, all this stuff. We had the Clarity Act coming. You have all this great news. You have BlackRock. You have all this. I personally think that there's some sort of manipulation going on. You could see on the weekly, we have the key levels on the volume bars. And I'm just in the camp that we are going to chop and then eventually go. And once we like break this level right here, come down, should probably leave this in. We're going to see how we form here. I really think we're on the cusp of, maybe a few more weeks of seeing. I hope we actually just drop already down here, and it pretty much is close to being in. So if the market's going to go for a new high, unless the market's done and the whole thing is done, looking at this, I just don't see us going down to what people are saying, like in 30,000 and stuff like that. I could be wrong. Again, I could be wrong. Keep that in mind. But time will tell. Price action is king. For ETH, again, this is another one I've been struggling with because when I look at this, I'm going to go into something right here. To me, I think ETH is pretty much done. It has underperformed Bitcoin. I've seen people say that I think they have a price target of $1,000 for ETH. And I don't know where. I know some of them are using Elliott Wave and Fibonacci and all this stuff. But on a technical stance, I have a hard time buying into that theory because if I were to look here, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody watching this, anybody who's watched any of my work, we have our first measured move with the head and shoulder. That was at 1424. Okay. We had the bear flag measured move, 1569. Some people have a lower move, but all I did here, unless I'm doing something wrong, and I have no problem saying I'm wrong or whatever the case is, no ego, no pride. I love to be wrong and not make mistakes. Some people draw their line like that. That's not how you draw it. That's never how I was taught. It was always like that. So to me, we broke out here. The measured move is in. That's what I see. We now fulfilled. And what's interesting is when I look at the price action here, this is a bullish formation. That is not bearish. If we stay in this green candle, and if you're saying there's no way that's true, look at what we did here. This is bullish. It's an inside candle. That right there is a bull flag. And we went up, right? Doesn't mean that you're going to go up huge. It's like, look, watch, I'm going to draw this in for you. Where did we break out of it? Like roughly here. 2273, 2274. We went to 23. We literally are $100 off the measured move. but also you're in a channel. So you could have said, okay, it's going to get a little bit more upside. You could see how it respected the channel. So for me, what I'm really struggling with and what I'm going to be watching is like, okay, if this is it, and we are going to go lower and we're going to do whatever people are saying, and it's going to be by the year end, here's what I'm watching on ETH. Wherever we break here, maybe we go to 1769. Okay, and we get rejected, and then we're going to have to see what type of formation are we building, because if this just chops like this after, okay, so I'm giving you two different examples to watch. This is, again, what are you supposed to be watching? This is what I'm watching. Are we going to do this again and go all the way up here, or are we going to go chop like this and then make a rep? I'm hoping we chop like this, because if we chop like what we did before and it starts building another bear flag, then okay, then I could see where people are coming up with that thesis, because then that would be even more scary, where we would see, depending upon if it was up here, then that would take us down to 1253. We have a fair value gap up here. This is what I'm watching, guys. So if you want a little bit of a taste of my world, this is what I'm thinking about whenever I'm seeing the market. I that's why I don't do videos all the time, because I need to see price action, what's forming, what the volume is. You saw a massive amount of volume here, which is bearish. Okay. Some people look at that as bullish and bearish. We have this wick here. Eventually, this wick might get taken out. So that's another thing that I think about. But look at how much volume and liquidity we have, and that's why I think there's a potential we go up between 1765 to 1923, where we broke structure. Okay, we broke structure at 1941. So that's where I am a little cautious. And the reason why it's so tricky, and I told you this in videos before, everybody thinks that they could call the bottom in a market. You tell me, what's so clear about this? Let's say this is the bottom, okay? Explain to me how this is black and white, showing you that the bottom's in 100%. It doesn't. It never will. I'm drawing all these things out to what to watch for, to keep my mind, be mindful of what can play out. Let's see what price action tells us. I don't want to go based off of my opinion. I don't want to go based off of my feelings or what I think. I don't give a rip. I want to see what the charts are going to tell us and where the money is going to flow, at what levels, and then I'm going to make my play. Until then, you're better to just sit tight. Sit tight and enjoy the ride. Now, another thing I almost forgot, if I look at the head and shoulders on ETH, it brings us down to 1424 on a measured move. We went to 1520. So, like I said before, not all measured moves hit exactly. Some are a little bit deeper, some are a little shallower. Remember, I said things eventually get filled, the wicks? So, this wick will potentially, if we fulfill this price level, get filled, right? So these are things that I hope you're learning and picking up on. This is a decade. This is, I don't know, 17 years worth of education on things that I've learned over the years. Do I make mistakes? Absolutely, because of me being a human being and having emotions, second guessing yourself, not having the confidence. And what I've learned is every time I've been right, it's just me not having the confidence and conviction in my own ability because I sometimes think there's no way I could be right. And I get into my head. And then over the years, I start to look back, and that's why it's so important to journal. I've been writing things down for a very long time, and good, bad, and otherwise. So, what's interesting is I called one of the biggest moves, and it was in uranium. I've talked about it. Anybody that knows me knows about this play. It was Cameco. And this goes all the way back when the nuclear meltdown happened in Japan. But what nobody was watching was down the road, Trump got in, and before he left office the first time, he signed a bill for America to purchase a hundred million or 100 billion. It was a massive number, or 100 million tons of uranium by X amount. And then you had the ESG play. Now, if you pay attention to the news, you would have missed the whole thing because everybody was knocking nuclear. Everybody was saying it's hazardous, it's the most dangerous, it's this, it's that. But it's the most affordable and cleanest form of energy that we have on Earth right now. So, that being said, if they're going to be decommissioning nuclear facilities. That's what the verbiage was on the news. They're going to decommission all nuclear and all of this jazz that was going on. Why would Trump sign something to buy that much uranium? China was turning reactors on like we change our underwear. There's new technology on how to use the leftover uranium. I'm like, this is an ESG play. This is the cleanest form of energy. Sure enough, a year or two down the road, Europe actually made it a part of the ESG play. So go look at Cameco and the run that had. I called that and was a part of that. I think the spot price of uranium was like in the 20s or even less. So those are just some examples of where I get a lot of my thought process is I'm not looking at things the same way a regular person does because I've been around to see a narrative being pushed out and then something completely happen. And I've watched very smart people, educated people, people that had PhDs, people that are lawyers, totally get blindsided, totally get caught up in their feelings, in the story, thinking, okay, well, these people, like you always hear, oh, you're not a professional in this, and that person on there, and Fauci, he knows more than you know, or whatever the case is. How did that work out? I watched some of the most educated people I know be sheep. And what's scary about that is if you go back into the history books, you'll see how people, I'm not going to mention names, but very bad people throughout history during World War II use the most educated people to push his agenda. That's what you have to be mindful of and scary and not being a sheep, having discernment, spiritual discernment. And that's a hard thing to do because I've personally failed at that many times in my life, which has put me in a very bad position. And then, sure enough, when things don't play out and you trust people or whatever the case is, I can assure you they will change their story and narrative to be like, well, that was on you. No one had a gun to your head to make that decision. You made that choice. So I'm going to leave it with that spiritual discernment for the day. Okay. If there's anything that is taking you away from God or your family, it's not from God. Remember that. Anything that you have to do to make to compromise your integrity and character, what you truly know in your heart is wrong, but you're just shutting up because it's the easier thing to do. And I've done it myself, so this is my own personal experience. It will never work out well. It could last. It could be good for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. The truth will always prevail. Remember that. Hold yourself accountable to God. I teach my own kids this. I have my daughter do something that somebody else is going to get in a lot of trouble for and potentially get suspended. When I found that out, I took my daughter and I said, you are going to be accountable for your actions. You're going to go to the principal and you're going to tell her the truth. And she was freaking out. I'm going to get suspended, all this stuff. And I said, I don't care if you get suspended. I would be more proud of you as a father to know that you did the right thing and didn't let somebody else take the rap for something you did that they're innocent in. And I will be perfectly happy with you getting suspended and being at home with me for a day or two. So she went to her room. She thought about it. I said, I want you to write a letter out. And I want you to tell me what's the worst case and what's the best case. And how do you feel if that person gets in trouble for your stuff? I knew what she was going to do because she's a pure little girl. She went, she wrote a whole thing. She went to the principal the next day and she told her the whole story. You know what the principal did? Kissed her on the head, gave her a big hug, said, thank you. I know that took a lot of courage and I appreciate what you're doing. She came home, ran to me. I said, what happened? She hugged me and kissed me. She was baffled because our natural instinct is if we get away with something just because nobody caught us, I don't want to hold that. I don't need to hey, I got away with it. Why would I have to expose myself? How's it going to make me look? How's it going to do this? And I just taught her the most valuable lesson in life. When you do something wrong, you own it. Do not sugarcoat it. Do not make it into a story that helps your narrative and maybe only tell 10% truth where 90% of it's fictitious. Don't do that. Own it 100% and vindicate yourself through your actions. Show your character and integrity. God is watching you in all that you do. And I promise you, you will be blessed for it. And on top of everything else, you'll feel better about yourself as a person. Because now you're not looking to be vindicated by the worldly things. You know that God is watching you and that you have an obligation to do the right thing. So that's my spiel for the day, folks. Like I always say, as always, stay disciplined, trade with intention, and God bless you all. Make it a great day.